Hello, everyone. So we're going over the Final Fantasy XIV 10th anniversary 14-hour broadcast, the live letter portion right now. So this followed our big benchmark trailer, which was really exciting. But there was some interesting stuff in the live letter. I wouldn't say it was very action-packed. They're doing another live letter before the launch of Dawn Trail. I think that'll be bigger, I would think. They spent a lot of time on the graphics update in the middle here, so we can kind of skim over that. But there is some actually really interesting things being added that I think are really good. Some on the technical side and some just for the community overall. But first, I just got to shout out Yoshi P's intro here, where he, he could have lined it up better. I would have maybe lined it up with the stool, like the head was literally resting right on there. But yeah, he blended in right with the green screen. But then they went over, again, basic stuff that we already know. It's the recap stuff that they always do. And then they got into the graphics update. I just want to point out a couple things here because, again, we've seen this a lot. We have the benchmark. So this one, obviously they show the improved foliage and all that. That's very clear. But I don't think this is like the most amazing shot. Like, again, the rocks look better, stuff like that. But this isn't the best one. I really want to show this. This is the one that really, really stood out. And again, we're dealing with YouTube compression. This is a live stream. I'm doing this while the stream is like still ongoing, but rewound. And just the stone path here, the texture quality, you're like, look at this. I mean, oh my god, like this is one of the, I think, best examples of the graphics update. I really do. I think they should have leaned on showing stuff like this. I mean, like, this looks so flat and ugly. This is like the, the floor. He was talking about that at one of the fan fests. He's like, oh, you go to take a picture and then you look at the ground and you're like, ugh. This is really exemplifies that perfectly. Just, yeah, the stonework is just so much better, so much more detailed. The texture quality is so much higher. I honestly think this is like the best looking, like, just direct improvement side by side. People have joked at times, sometimes they've done the kind of Lalafell chin comparisons, or some things where it's like, you go, oh yeah, that's, I guess it's technically better, but it doesn't really stand out. But there are many aspects that do really stand out, and I think, like I said, if you see, I have a reaction to the benchmark trailer, and if you see that, you can tell I think that looked really, really good. And the improvements are really clear. But this, I really feel like, is some of the best example of just, oh yeah, the details are just much higher quality. The texture quality is clearly improved. This is one of the best side-by-sides out there. So like I said, they really focus on this. I mean, they should. Like, look at this. You can see he's pointing it out with his mouse. Yeah, I mean, this just, God, I mean, this looks way better. This is basically when you see a game that's like a PS2 game, that generation, PS2, GameCube, Xbox generation, or even like the Wii or something like that, and you see it get a remaster. You could say remake, but I'm not even talking about this game because this, like I said, the game, the graphics update, it keeps its style. It's not radically different. It just looks better, right? It's like, oh, the game looks similar, but it's just better. But that's what you see when a game, like, oh, we improved the texture quality, but maybe we didn't remake everything, but we did, update some textures. Like, this is kind of what it reminds me of. Is like, this is, FF14 remastered. So yeah, that looks really good. And you can see some similarities there. Like I said, this is a good shot too. Obviously the rain and weather effects are much improved. The water hitting the stone and stuff just looks way more realistic. So yeah, some definitely clear improvements to the graphics. This looks better. They've showed that. We've gotten this shot before, but anyway, we're going to move on. So some things that I think are interesting, they do mention here, you know, they show their anti-aliasing settings and stuff. They've added more options. And I noticed that in the benchmark trailer, that the game looked kind of cleaner. You know, the game really suffers from a lot of aliasing. It has a lot of jaggies, or just shimmering when you look in the distance. And it definitely seems like they've done some improvements here. But later, they actually announced, I think, one of the best things in terms of technically making the game, you know, look better or run better. So here's some of their, you know, new settings, to hopefully help with that. And you can see they mentioned jittering camera, and that's what they're talking about, is the thing shimmering and standing out and looking sharp and jaggy in the distance. Again, this is YouTube compression on the stream that's currently live. The benchmark trailer they uploaded separately, and it looks really good. This trailer, like, no, you know, live stream, no way. Again, all their new foliage, when people live stream the game, it's gonna look bad because like Twitch won't handle all this foliage and stuff well. You know, even games like Horizon Zero Dawn and, you know, sequel kind of have that where people run through it and it doesn't look as good, even though the game looks amazing, you know. So there's going to be issues, but they are trying to improve. Like, I think the main problem with the game's visuals, that was always my opinion, is the lack of they have some anti-aliasing, but it really looks rough, and you constantly get jaggies and shimmering artifacts and stuff. So yeah, they continue to go through some of the settings showing shadows and all that, but we're going to move on because, like I said, they spent a lot of time on the graphics update. And, you know, again, on stream is not the way to really compare that stuff anyway. But this, I did want to talk about. I think this is fantastic. So they're adding AMD FSR and NVIDIA DLSS. So DLSS is an amazing addition. Obviously, if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, DLSS is always a way to, you know, get improved performance without really sacrificing image quality that much, you know, depending on what tier of DLSS, I guess. But they also include like their own form of anti-aliasing in DLSS, so your settings are like automatic in games. You know, you can have native resolution, and then you would go into your settings and set your own anti-aliasing. But if you use DLSS, it just, you know, that's what you're doing. And I think, to me, that's generally the way to go. Is it's just like, oh, just go with DLSS if you can't brute force it, you know, on like, you know, the perfect PC. When it comes to an NVIDIA PC graphics card, you know, you go with DLSS and you're in good shape. And 2.0 is what it's using. They're on 3.0, even like 3.5 now, but a lot of the 3.0 stuff is really focused around frame generation and stuff, which you would not use in MMO. So I think that's fine. The FSR I want to talk about is, unfortunately, people that aren't using an NVIDIA graphics card, they're using FSR 1.0, they said. Now, FSR 1.0 is pretty bad. Like, it looks pretty bad. I think 2.0 is like iffy. Like, it looks okay-ish if it's on quality, a quality setting. But so you can get some frames without sacrificing, you know, too much image quality. But even there, I think you sacrifice a decent amount with FSR. And in 1.0 is really rough looking. So, like, I can't really imagine using FSR over, you know, using native resolution and setting my own anti-aliasing and then picking, you know, tweaking my own settings. With an AMD card, I would tweak my own settings and not just like, oh, let FSR rock, because 1.0 is just not, I think, good enough. FSR 3.0 is really where it got good. And obviously in development, like, they're using 2.0 and 1.0. So to me, that says like where they're at, like, you know, they were behind the current because they were, you know, making these changes. So yeah, on the FSR side, you can't say I would recommend it, but with an NVIDIA GPU, DLSS could be amazing for this game, right? Anybody who needs the extra frames could benefit, but also it could be, a great anti-aliasing improvement as well in and of itself. So I think that's a great thing they added. They explain it here. So like I said, they mention if you have a card that supports DLSS 2.0, which would mean, a current NVIDIA card, because I think they recommend like a 20 series anyway, which is what you'd need to be on when it comes to NVIDIA graphics card to have access to DLSS, I'm pretty sure. So a 20 series graphics card, 30 or 40. So anywhere from like a 2060 to up to a 4090, you're going to be good to go there, and they recommend using it. And I would too. But again, 1.0, they said it'll be default. I don't know. Like, I don't know that I would use it even if I didn't have DLSS. But yeah, they mentioned FSR, you can lower your resolution scaling, and it could help. But again, I think it'll look bad, at least in my experience in other games. Like 1.0 FSR looks pretty bad, so I wouldn't recommend it. Also, they have dynamic resolution. They have this in the game already. It's a toggle in like beta, I think. I think it's always listed as beta. But a lot of people had trouble like with it working correctly. So I assume what this means is like when they did all this technical back-end work with the graphics update and this, they got that working good. And dynamic resolution is a great feature. Many games use it, in console games, like a lot of them just like that's the way they work. They have dynamic res entirely. So dynamic resolution, when your frame rate drops, your resolution drops to protect your frame rate from dropping in an intense scene, it's always good. So if it works well, and again, you're not on a really high powered PC, it's worth using that for sure. This was interesting. PS4 and Xbox Series S, again, not X, Xbox Series X and PS5 will be together, but they're mentioning PS4 and Series S together here. The PS4 is going to be more limited than the Series S, of course, but they're just mentioning that technically some parts of the graphics update are going to be implemented on these consoles, but they just won't be as fully featured. The dynamic res will be probably more harsh, so it'll drop way lower. The level of detail on distant objects is going to be a lot worse on PS4, and the LOD for shadows, they say, will be enabled on Series S. Nothing else. So Series S, I think, mostly will be fine in using stuff, but just at a lower resolution than the Series X. But PS4, in certain spots, it's probably going to, dynamic resolution is probably going to force that resolution down pretty low. But, that is what it is. This is a big one. A big one. The community has really asked for this. There's people who obviously deal with getting harassed in the game. It happens in any game and in life. Certain people are going to deal with people harassing and stalking them and stuff. And yeah, it's been a big problem. You'll see occasionally posts on Reddit or Twitter or wherever of people like, man, I want to remove this person from my friends list. I want to block them. And like, they can still just follow me around. I see them all the time. And like, the blacklist options are bad. It doesn't do enough. I still feel like I'm being harassed no matter what. So yeah, they added a mute list, a term filter, so you could just block certain things from being posted entirely. The mute list, I think, is interesting because it's different than like a straight up block or blacklist. Estate expulsion, you can kick people out or force people out of your estate, so people can't follow you in. You're like, oh, you want my house open for other people, but then if I leave it open, my stalker can get in or something. You can change that now. And then more lodestone privacy settings. And yeah, the term filter is like, you could put anything in there technically if you don't want. I don't know, even if you're just someone who doesn't like, being gold or, you know, gill sellers or whatever, you could, you know, RMT stuff, you could use words like that and block them, which a lot of people would probably want to use even if they're not dealing with harassment and stuff, right? I thought this was interesting. In addition to the blacklisted characters' messages, their character model will now be hidden. So you can blacklist someone and you don't even see them. So that's, I guess, good, right? I think that's a positive. But in some weird way, I don't think that's perfect, because it's like you can't see them, so it's nice. It's like, oh, I don't have to stress. I don't see them and they creep me out if you're dealing with someone stalking you. But their character model being hidden, I almost feel like if I was being stalked in the game, I would want my character model hidden from them. But the way it's worded to me, it says, in addition to the blacklisted character's message, their character model will now also be hidden. So again, it might be nice not to see someone if they're giving you a hard time, but if, like, I wonder if, like, they can see you? Like, if they can still see the person they're stalking, but now you can't see that they're there creeping on you or something? I don't think that's perfect. I'd really like, personally, I would want to be hidden from them, my character model, so they can't see me. But I don't think that's the way it works, which, you know. But like I said, if you have any thoughts on that, feel free to leave it in the comment section below, because I don't know. Like, is that good, or am I onto something that you'd rather be hidden yourself? So anyway, they mentioned that it applies to all characters tied to the blacklisted character service account, which is great. So it's like they can't just make a different character or, you know, stalk you with a different character, which is on their same account. They have to, like, you know, have a whole different service account, and then you can blacklist them there if they do something. And the blacklist will distinguish between before and after 7.0, so there are some differences. So yeah, they mentioned you can still see black will be displayed in certain situations. Maybe blacklisted characters will be displayed in certain situations. Yeah, so I don't know. Even when their character model is visible, their name will display as unknown. So I guess actually they do disappear, right? That's what they mean? So you don't have to see them? So the wording on that threw me off when I first read this. I didn't just read it now, I read it twice now. And it made me think that you were hidden, or they were hidden, but you weren't hidden. But no. So yeah, even when they're, so they are hidden, right? Yeah, not you. But when you're in a duty with someone that was on your list, they would be blocked. I think that's you know, fine. Again, you don't want to be playing with someone if you feel like they're harassing you. So a lot of this stuff is like, there's different rules if they're in your group. I think that's fine, because you're trying to not be in there anyway, and it really shouldn't be a super big issue. But it's still a good thing that they have, you know, extra options for that. You can have up to 200 people blacklisted, data store server side, but then there's the mute list, which is not server side, it's client side, and characters will only be muted on the device they were initially registered on. So if someone's, you know, playing on PC and console, you have to go through that. But that's a really great thing. Like I said, I still am a little confused or whatever by them disappearing and you not, or whatever. I don't know if that's perfect or whatever, but it's still an improvement. And hopefully it, just by having more built into the game, it'll actually make people, you know, who are creeping on someone, like, less encouraged to do it, because they're losing so much, right? Like, it's so much more of a pain to deal with, so they won't bother. They know that the devs are taking it serious now. So yeah, and then you have more control on, like, hiding your lodestone things as well. I've always thought that was kind of weird. Like, the lodestone, you know, like, everything can be up there. You could not be on there, but, like, for most people, it's like, if I want to look up someone's character, I can. And I even feel like that should have been limited in the past. And now you'll have a lot of options of hiding that stuff. And like I said, that was mostly the important stuff. What's interesting, or I guess our final most notable thing is, this is the schedule until Dawn Trail. Not a ton of stuff, right? Not main, major, big content. But we're currently having the 16 crossover event, which will end on May 8th, of course. But the Yokai Watch collaboration event is coming back as well. And that should be starting right here on the 24th, so very soon. And that goes all the way until the 26th over here in June, I believe. That should be, 6-1 to here. So the Yokai Watch event is going to be around for a while, right? That's almost, or a little over 2 months. And it'll be going away right before Dawn Trail's out. I've never gotten to do the Yokai event, so I think that's really nice. And I haven't done the 16 one yet. I plan on doing that soon. And so, be able to knock those out together is cool. But they also are going to have a Moogle Treasure Trove happening. You can see on the 14th here of May. And the Make It Rain campaign that'll start the next day. But what's even more exciting is the media tour is going to begin. They're officially telling us when that'll happen. And we're getting the 15th of May, it looks like. And the media tour ends at the end of the month. So we get about 2 weeks of the media tour running, and a lot comes out during the media tour, right? A lot of details. That's where we'll really get the job action trailer, I would expect. That's where we'll get a ton of more nitty-gritty details that I feel like the players care about. A lot of like the fan fest and stuff can be so broad, or so like, hey, we're doing this, and it's like a very obvious thing, and a lot of filler. I almost feel like the media tour gives us, and again, I've only been around for one media tour previously following that. I feel like the media tour has some of the meatiest stuff because the players are asking the questions that they really care about and stuff. So yeah, the media tour should be really good. A lot should be able to be, covered there. And that means we're about almost exactly 1 month from the media tour starting. And that is what we got. But there is one other thing, I believe. And that is this. The Dragon Quest X collaboration event will also come back on the 5th of June. So wait a minute, when does the 16 event end? The 16 event ends on like the 8th of May. So technically, I'm just thinking if someone wanted to do everything in a month, hadn't done any of this. Yeah, it looks like technically you could do everything, just be a little bit of a tight squeeze, but you could technically cover all 3 of these events in 1 month if you timed it right. But yeah, so the Dragon Quest event will be on the 5th, and then on the 20th again, just like the Yokai event ending on the 26th. They're making sure this stuff ends before Dawn Trail. So the Dragon Quest event is actually the smallest amount of time to participate if you need to do that. And then the live letter on the 14th. So we have, and 2 live letters, of course, but we have May 16th and June 14th. So that'll be, with Dawn Trail coming on the 28th, it'll be exactly 2 weeks from launch. We'll get the final live letter. And the 16th will be right when the media tour starts, basically. And I think that's when we'll see the job action trailer. So this is the final look at what's happening. Obviously not, big content. No one's coming back to play like major things. You do the collaboration events if you haven't done them. You knock them out pretty quick. In a day or two. Maybe you need something out of the treasure trove. But still, they're nice things to throw in right before an expansion. And with the media tour and the multiple live letters, we actually have a ton of like news events still to follow that'll be really exciting for the game. So yeah, that was basically the whole live letter in terms of important info. They threw some stats in at the end. You know, they just have some fun stats. I like this one the most. There's 159 hours of cutscenes in Final Fantasy XIV. That's a lot. That is a lot of hours of cutscenes. But yeah, and then they went over their, you know, favorite mounts and stuff like that, which I think are very obvious. But yeah, in general, that's the end of the live letter. That's the important info. So yeah, if you have any thoughts to share, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.